Pahan. I remember that name way back when she first got that name. And quite a few years ago, I met my wife. We were working together. I seen this woman. She was talking with her friends. I didn't know this, but they were talking about me. They call me Stony Mountain Bob. That's what they called me. And so I met one of my coworkers at Yellowknife, Northwest Territories, and I said, "Who's that lady that's singing? The one that's singing in the middle there?" "Oh, that's Pahan." "Oh, okay." So and then I started to work together with her. I didn't know her. I just liked the way she worked, and the way she talked to the people that she was trying to help. And I was doing basically the same kind of work. I was married before, and we didn't do the same kind of work, and we didn't understand one another. I was doing ceremonies, and she didn't understand ceremonies, so it was very hard to live like that. So I learned that to try and be compatible, or at least learn how to do things. And doing things together, I also learned that it's important. It's different, the way I understand things about this word love. I didn't know that you're supposed to act it out. You're supposed to also say that word love. I didn't know those things. I didn't even know about dating when I was young. So that's quite a deal to be in what I call heavy involvement. You got to put your whole self into if you're planning to know a person, or to even to work with a person, and eventually to get married. That's quite a deal. My wife is a pretty energetic person. She always wants things done the right way. So that's good. It's good for me that she would want things to be done the right way. We both worked hard for a long time, and so that's how I got to know her, and the way she laughs and the way she talks. The many friends that we have, people seem to like it, the way we are and stuff. So those are supporting things. We had lots of fun times. I know that humor is a big part of our life, and my mother-in-law, my wife's mother, heard that we were planning on getting married, and she told Pahan, "Yeah, you shouldn't marry that guy. He's much too serious." Oh boy, she didn't know we were both like to joke around and have that was pretty funny. So, living through a pretty rough life, going to residential school and joining Canadian Armed Forces to do peacekeeping across the country, in 2 different countries across the ocean there. That's a pretty bad thing. You gotta It's supposed to be keeping the peace. It's not keeping the peace. Uh, it's pretty rough. And then coming home here to live a different way, the way I needed to live, and then finding someone who's on the same road as what Creator had given me. It's a good match, I thought. So kids are pretty important. I learned not to put our will on our kids, and I learned to listen to them when they talk. I didn't know those things, and I learned that. My wife and I, we raised up 6 kids, and we adopted 6 kids. So that's a big house, and 2 right now. Like all our kids are gone, of course. They all have their own, and we have kids that are living far away, East Coast. We brought 4 of our kids up to Yellowknife. We left 2 of them up there, and finally one came back, and one is still living up there. So I guess we got to know how to look after the kids and look after one another. We got to be supportive. So that's what I find in Pahan. And we learn lots together. That's the other thing that's important to learn. It's she has different kind of food that she eats, and I have different kind of food that I eat. So we know those things, and we learn those together. So it's not bad, I learned about her famous dad along the few years that I've known her. Her dad is pretty famous. So someday she might tell you about that. In my world, we are not to talk to our mother-in-law. It's not like that with her mother. Her and I always talk. So that's pretty different than what I grew up with. So lots of changes. But it's I learned lots of things. I learned to it doesn't always have to be this way or that way. It's like that. When I done my ceremony, I'm pretty strict. So then when I see things that I thought may not work out so good, I always voice it. And so she's supportive of that, my wife, and we both do ceremonies, which is important, I thought. Someday she does the ceremony, I sing for her. Someday I do the ceremony and she sings for me. And we just went through our medicine cabinet, and oh boy, we have medicine all over our house. And she looks after that. She knows about the medicine, and we talk about medicine, and we're going to pick medicine. We learn how to look after medicine together. Those are important things. When we do that, we seem to get paid from up there Tokashi does like that. Creator likes that. And today we have a nice house, and we're very, very fortunate and honored to do Creator's work. I find it rewarding. I find it very honored to do Creator's work. And we both agreed that Creator comes first. We both agreed to that. And so we talk about things that I never talked about when I was young. I didn't know how to talk of all the trauma that I went through. I didn't know. I kept all that trauma inside for quite a long time until I learned how to take it out. You know, people taught me that. The people who I talk to, and of course my wife too has got her degree in social work and stuff, and so I learned lots from her too. But I always had to translate that into Dakota way, the way that I understand the laws. We have lots of laws in Dakota. We have lots of laws, and I still try to keep that as much as I can. And she's very helpful. So I'm understanding the work that we both do. I'm glad we're doing it together. Sometimes when a big ceremony comes up, 10-day ceremony, oh boy, I have to talk together all the time. That way we will both do the same thing. So that's what I'm understanding. So thank you. I had a chance to say thank you to Pahan Sami, White Swan Buffalo Woman. So that's quite a deal. That meaning when a person has two spirit, the swan and the buffalo, and the colors, they also mean. That's why they gave her that name, and it's important to use that name that she has, and so I try to support her in living that name. It's that's how we get help and support from up there. Every time we do that, something new comes, a vision or a dream comes, and we carry that out. It's important to know that when you have a vision, you got to put it into action. That's very important. So, and Pahan is going through the same thing. So it's important we're working together as a team, which is pretty important. People see us and they always call us and they always make comments about us doing work together. So, all right, thank you.
would you say if I asked you the question, what has life taught you? That's a question that I've asked myself. And it seems like there's 3 important lessons that life has taught me. And the first is how important it is as an Indigenous woman for me to know who I am and where I came from. The second is about my relationship with Creator and my ancestors, and how important and critical it has been to develop that relationship and allow them to help me in my life. And the third, and maybe that's the most important, is that life is teaching me about love in all the things that I experience. Mitakuyapi Pahan te sangi mieye. My name is White Swan Buffalo Woman, and I want to tell you some things about what I learned. So my first is learning about who I am as an Indigenous woman, and I kind of think my journey in coming to who I am and understanding who I am is a little bit, maybe it's backwards than what most people experience. Because for me, it had to do with learning about through doing rather than knowing. And the doing was things that my dad taught me. My dad is Tapwe, Chrétien. Our family, I come from many generations of Métis Cree people who lived in the Red River. And eventually, when there weren't, the buffalo herds were getting smaller and smaller, and people were trying to figure out how they were going to live, one of my grandfathers, he brought our family and settled and decided to settle in a place called Willow Bunch. I know. I mean, it's Willow Bunch. Isn't that a great name for a place? And that's near a place called Wood Mountain. And Wood Mountain, for those of you who know, is the area where Sitting Bull, when he came across the border into Canada to get away from the soldiers that were chasing him, and he brought people with him, they came to Wood Mountain, and they did that because they had relationships with some of my ancestors, and that they ended up living near each other. That's where it is. It's in southern Saskatchewan. My mother's a settler, and I grew up raised by my mother, and my dad moved away. And so I grew up with her and her husband, and they were settlers, and we spent a lot of time with his family. And that was a profoundly influence on my life, because we were the children of an Indian man from their perspective. And that was not something that they could find a place in their hearts to offer a welcoming to us. And so that growing up in a place where, and in a family and in a community where my brother and I, we didn't feel like we belonged, and we didn't feel like we were wanted, had such a wounding on my heart. And that started the journey of what I needed to learn in life. That journey of feeling like these are not my people, and I need to find my people. So when I got older, of course, when I could make decisions for myself, and I started looking for my people, it was a great drive inside of myself to find this place where I could belong. And it took me into First Nation community. So I lived in Alberta at the time, and I ended up finding Cree people at powwows and ceremony, and started to learn something about what it meant to be in Cree community, and be in a place where finally I felt like it was a place that was good for me and I was comfortable there. And that was the journey of me figuring out who I am. And you know, as a young child, I knew, I didn't need to know it up here, but I knew it in my heart that I needed to belong somewheres. And I think we all need to belong somewheres. And so looking for that belonging, and I knew also when I found it. I knew the difference, and it led me on the journey of where I needed to go and where Creator wanted to take me, even though I didn't understand it at the time. And that journey has been full of all kinds of challenges, but it's also something that has brought those challenges and that teaching to me in a way that Creator wanted it to be. The first time that I had a vision, I was 8 years old. And I was sitting on the edge of my bed, and I was the only one up at that time of the day. And I didn't really like that feeling, because I was used to, when I woke up, my mother would be awake and I could smell coffee and toast and there's noises in the kitchen. But this morning, I was the only one. I was awake. I was the only one. And I was wondering why that was. And I was sitting at the edge of my bed, and I looked up, and there was this picture on the wall. And when I looked at it, the picture came alive, and it started talking to me. And I got really scared. I couldn't hear what they were saying, but I could see them moving and animated, and I started to cry. And then next thing you know, my mother's beside me, and she's saying, "You're having a bad dream." And I said, "No, I wasn't sleeping." She's like, "Yeah, it's okay, you were having a bad dream." And I didn't know what to do with that experience. I did not know what it was. So I put it in the back of my mind, way back, not forgotten, but somewhere where I could retrieve it later if I ever needed to. And I was going to need to. I was going to need to retrieve that later. When I became an adult and I started going to ceremony, that sacredness that was there when I was young came back to me in many ways. And when I went on my first vision quest, I was at the top of the mountain. I was so very blessed to be in the Yukon, in the top of a mountain, fasting from food and water. And I was reaching towards Creator, and I was wanting Creator to reach back towards me and to help me with the healing and those wounds that I had. And like often happens when you're fasting and on a vision quest, I slept. And when I woke up, I sat up and I looked around. It was beautiful. It was beautiful at this top of the mountain, and there was no one around anywhere. And when I looked over there was that same person from the picture who was standing just outside of my fasting area. And this time, they didn't say anything. And I didn't get scared, because now I was an adult and I knew that what they were bringing me was what I had asked for. And I seen that person come to me when I danced at the Sundance. And in ceremony, several times, always standing, never talking, letting me know that they were watching me and helping me in my life. And the last time was when I was actually in the hospital and I'd had heart surgery. You know, my dad, when he was 50 years old, all the amazing things that he did in his life and the things that he taught me, he got a heart condition at 50 years old. My grandmother, his mom, she got a heart condition when she was at 50 years old. And this relationship that I have with my dad, physical, but also in all ways, he was the kind of person who taught me through, when I was a little kid, we would go outside and we would lay down in the grass and we'd look for insects. And when we found them, we'd go back and we'd draw them, and he'd tell me what the different parts were called, and then we'd put that up on the wall. And so he loved the natural world, and he taught me about loving our connection to Mother Earth and all the different things, flowers and grasses and trees and all kinds of wildlife. When I got older, he said, "We're going to get up early in the morning tomorrow. Can you do that?" "Yeah, I can do that." "Okay, because we're going to go on a buffalo crawl." "Well, what is that?" "Well, we're going to go, I know where the buffalo herd's going to be in the morning. We're going to go there, and we're going to go really quietly, and we're going to go observe them." Like, okay. So we did. That's what we did. And he takes his camera, because he's a photographer, and he shoots the buffalo with his camera. And he taught me something about that sacred connection we have. And of course, that was so important to me years later when I received my name, White Swan Buffalo Woman. Pahan Sami. But now, it's my turn. Now I have a heart condition. And I'm in the hospital, and I needed emergency heart surgery. I had just finished dancing at the Sundance, and I had a wonderful dance, and I felt fantastic, and I went home, and in a few days, I had some shortness of breath. I went to the hospital, and next thing you know, I was getting open heart surgery. And I thought, I was just dancing at the Sundance a few days ago. How could I be getting open heart surgery? But there I was, and they had to do a bypass. If my dad had that opportunity, he would have lived a lot longer. But I had the opportunity to have that. And after this experience of having open heart surgery, wow, and when I woke up, I just felt like I had been hit by a truck. So if any of you had open heart surgery, you probably know what I'm talking about. And I was in the hospital for some time, and it was hard. You know, I couldn't walk. I needed help just to walk across the room. My goodness sakes. But I was just dancing at the Sundance. How could that happen to me so quickly? And I had some kind of complication, and I had a lot of pain, and it wasn't going away. And I would tell the people at the hospital, and they kind of said, "Well, you know, you should be getting better now." You know, they didn't realize I was having a complication. And so one night I was awake because I was really uncomfortable, and I was alone in that room. And I was talking to Crater, and I said, "Crater, why do I have to go through this? Of all the things that have happened in my life, haven't I tried to fulfill all the things you've asked of me? Why? How could you forget about me? How could you forget?" And I started to cry. And I was feeling very sorry for myself. And I said, "You know, I think it would have been better you could have just let me come home than to go through this kind of experience. I don't know how I can get through it." And I started to cry, and I opened up my eyes, and there was that spirit standing at the end of the bed again. And this time, that spirit spoke to me and said, "There is meaning in suffering. You know this." And hearing those words, I felt myself go calm on the inside. And I stopped crying, and I stopped that feeling of kind of desperation that maybe I wouldn't be able to get through whatever it was. It was almost like all the hurts of my life were all concentrated in this one experience, bringing that to me. And after that spirit came to visit me, I I felt like, okay, whatever it is, I can go through that. And I wanted to go home. I wanted to go home. And they said, well, you're going to have to be able to walk down the hallway if you want to go home. You're going to have to walk up the step. Like, it's true, because how would I manage at home if I can't? And I didn't feel well, and I really didn't feel like it. But I knew that the only way for me to get past whatever I was to get outside of my comfort zone and push past what I wanted to do to be able to do more. And so that's what I did. And because I was able to do that, in a little while I could walk to the end of the hall, in a little while I could go step up those stairs, and then I got to go home. And I got to learn and work towards all the things that I could do before. And I realized something about life, that's exactly what life is like. That's exactly what life is like, because that's what all the challenges in life do. When I stay where I'm comfortable in my comfort zone, I can't change. I can't grow. It's when I step outside of my comfort zone and I push past what feels like I can do and do a little bit more. That's when I start to grow. And I believe that the experiences that I had in my life that were difficult, including the wounding of being rejected, taught me something about compassion, taught me something about belonging, taught me something about welcoming people in. So when we have a circle and there's some person standing outside the circle, I'm going to go get that person and bring them into the circle, because I know what it's like to feel like that person. And that's our teaching. And that's our responsibility to do that. That's our responsibility to do that. I want to teach you, I want to share with you what I learned about love. The teaching that I was given through my life experience is that you are absolutely lovable, and there's nothing you could ever do that can change that. There's nothing you could ever fail to do that could change that, because you are love. And I learned that as a person who is trying to learn something about love in my life. And Creator once took me on a journey where I did not expect to go. So as I working with people in my lifetime, I worked with lots of women. And women who come for support often come because they've been harmed by men in some way. And so I worked with lots of women who had been harmed by men. And then at one point in my life, we were living in the Northwest Territories, and my husband took a position in Winnipeg, and I was going to move over to Winnipeg too. And my husband phoned me up and he said, I'm working here at Stony Mountain Institution. He said, they really desperately need people to come and work here. Would you consider coming and working with the men at Stony Mountain Institution? I thought, well, I've never thought about working with men before, and I've never thought about working with men who are in prison, but I could, if there's a need, why wouldn't I? Of course I would. And in a little while, that's exactly where I was. I was working at Stony Mountain with the men, and lots of our men, lots of Indigenous men are in there. And in a little while, they got used to me, and they started to come to me and for support, for counseling, or to tell me about the things that are going on in their life. And, they gave me this little office. And when I went in there the first time, I thought, well, this is not an office like I've ever had before, when people come to tell me what's going on in their life or troubles that they have. because this one has a window in the door and a window in the wall. So usually I have an office that has some privacy, so if someone needs to cry or, whatever, they can feel comfortable, but not this place. And so I asked them about that, and they said, oh, no, you have to have an office like this because if anything ever goes wrong, we need to be able to see in there. And that's going to make it safer for you, and that's going to make it safer for us. Oh, right. And they said, and by the way, there's a button over here, and if you're ever in great trouble, you're going to put that button. And then a whole bunch of officers are going to come running. So I whoa. I was like, I hope I never accidentally hit that, moving furniture or something. And thankfully, I never ever did. But when the men came to see me, they started to tell me their story. And I noticed they always sit with their back so that nobody can see them through that window. And when they told their story, they started to tell me about the things what it was like when they were growing up. And I learned that they had gone through some terrible things, and that they were the sons of the women that I had worked with, who had been hiding under the bed when she was being harmed. And it wounded them. It wounded them, that experience. And when they got older, that wounding turned to anger. And then that anger turned into hurting other people. And when that happened, we went and found them and locked them up. So no, never to hurt anyone else again. But as that adult man was talking to me and telling me about himself as a child, I could see him as the boy that he once was, so innocent and pure and full of hope. And vulnerable. And that when he had needed protection, that we as a community, as a society, had not been there to look after him. And I felt that we as a community had failed him. It was our responsibility, but we were not there to protect him. Which is true. And it's happened for many of our brothers and nephews and sons and men. But what happened, which I never expected could ever happen, is while that process of them telling me about their story, I could feel my heart caring for him, and I could feel my heart loving him. And with all the things that he had gone through in life, that little person inside of him was still there, and I could love him. And when I thought about it later, I thought, these are our family members who we're really the throwaway people, the people that we want locked up, never to hurt anyone else, but also we don't want to think about them. And they've done terrible things. There's no doubt about it. And still, my heart felt this love. And then I realized, Creator put it there. Creator put love in my heart for this person so that I could learn something about that. So that I could learn that every person is lovable, because I'm just a humble woman doing my best to care about people, but Creator put that love in my heart so that I could see that every single human being is important to Creator, and Creator loves them. And that this teaching that you are absolutely lovable and there's nothing you could ever do that could change that. There's nothing you could ever fail to do that could change that. Because if I could love a person, in spite of the things that they have done, the mistakes that they've made, then for sure Creator does. For sure. And when I take that teaching one more step, then if mistakes that are very big are forgivable and I could still be lovable, then all the mistakes that I've made in my life that I feel regret about, that I convince myself that I'm not worthy when I think of them, then why wouldn't I just let that go? And just remember that I am lovable. I can be lovable, even in my mistakes, even in what I wish I would have done different. I can be wanted, and I can belong. Those are important teachings that Creator gave me the life so that could come to me, and also that I could share it with you, because maybe that you do that to yourself. Find ways to believe that you're not good enough. And so I'm here to tell you that those things are untrue. Those things are untrue. I'm going to sing a song. I'm going to give you a song. I want to give you a song to go with that teaching about being lovable. And this song is a lullaby. And for everyone who has grown to be an adult, and even a person who has one white hair like me who's living the winter of their life, inside of us we always have a child. And that child needs nurturing and love. So this is a song that I like to give to people for that child inside of you. And it goes like this. Hamba, 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 hiu. Hamba, 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 hiu. Hamba, 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 hiu. Hamba, hea, hiu. Hamba, 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 hiu. Hamba, 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 hiu. Hamba, 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 hiu. Hamba, hea, hiu. Way, 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 hamba, 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 hiu. Hamba, 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 hiu. Hamba, 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 hiu. Hamba, hea, hiu. So the last teaching that I want to talk about is about relationship with Creator and our ancestors. Takashira Atewa Kataka, sacred spirits and Father Great Holy. In my life, Creator has been supporting me and giving me a path. And even times I haven't known this, and even times I haven't been able to see it, because I'm at this stage of my life. I have all this life to look back on. And then I noticed, oh, so that happened that way, which connected me to this person, which connected me to this community, which connected me and brought me to the place that I am now. And that is done through my ancestors and the Takashira, so the sacred spirits. My dad went home, like I told you, with his heart condition. And that was such a sad time for me because I wanted more life with him, of course, and I wanted to learn more from him. What I didn't know was that when he went home and became a sacred spirit, that he was going to turn around and look at me, and that he was going to keep loving me and keep being interested in the things that are happening in my life, and that I could ask him for help, which I have been doing all these years, almost 40 years now, asking him for help. And he brings help to me in miraculous ways, in all kinds of ways to let me know that he's still around. And those ways sometimes have been dreams. When he passed away, on the 4th day after he passed away, I had a dream. He came to me and he said, "I'm in a good place." And then he was gone. Afterwards, I thought, hey, I could have asked him all kinds of things. He could have given me some answers to my big questions, but that's all he had to say, and that's all I needed, because I, at the moment, didn't know where he was. Was he in a good place? Yeah, he was. And then what started to happen was, even though he was in the spirit world, people from the community would come up to me and say, your dad's a great friend of mine. And then they'd tell me stories about him, things that I didn't even know. So it was like I was getting to even know him better through the stories of other people. And then strange things would happen. Like one day going into my office in the morning, and there on the door handle of my door is this gift. And I open it up, and there's a picture of my dad that I've never seen before with a note. Thought you might like this. And all the important times of my life, when I needed guidance, he would find ways to bring a message to me. My husband and I were living in the Northwest Territories, and my husband had a vision to have a Sundance. And he knows what it looks like, but he doesn't know where it's going to be. So we're going to different places to try to find this place that he saw in his, the vision that he had to where we're going to have a Sundance. And so this man, he says, "Oh, come over here, I got some ideas." So we go, and it's where my dad had lived, these places where my dad loved and he visited. And we visited different places and then finally when we found the one, and my husband said, "Yeah, this is the vision that I had." It was right close to where my dad had lived. So then we were connected to that community where he had lived and all the people who knew him. So supporting me in such important ways, and ways that made me feel stronger, and ways that helped me to know that I was on the right track. And that's why I teach about this plan that Creator has for our life. Even if we don't know what it is, Creator knows what it is. And when we follow the messages that come in dreams and visions and other ways, amazing other ways, then that helps us to be on that path that is leading us towards the work that Creator had for us. And for me, that was after many years of going to ceremony and making prayers and then having visions to have different ceremonies, that eventually I had a vision, and that vision was to have a Sundance of all women, with women in leadership, with men supporting us. And that in that Sundance, all the dancers would be women. And that there would be a council of 12 grandmothers that would support us. And that there would be those that would oppose us. And that when that happened, just to know that that's male power not wanting to release itself. And when after I had that vision, I went to my husband and told him about it. This is what came. And he listened, and he said, I'm going to support you. I will support you. You know how valuable it is to have a partner who will say that and be able to recognize and the work that you need to do and be willing to help you with that in whatever way. And that's what we did. So my husband and I working together to manifest this beautiful vision of a Sundance of women with all women dancers. And there were people who opposed us, that is for sure. And you know, it was like my heart surgery. All the resistance of us needing to do what we needed to do helped us to grow that strength, so that women in leadership, pushing through what was hard into outside of our comfort zone, grew us to be able to be in leadership and to be able to do that with confidence and strength and confidence to know that we are able to do that. And sometimes that opposition was my husband and me trying to figure out, how do you switch from me supporting him in his role as a Sundance leader to now him supporting me in my role as leader? That's a very hard thing to do. So we're bumping into each other. Oh, he's like, well, but we learned how. And of course, we're a sacred team. We love each other. So we're used to figuring out how to work together. I think this teaching of women in leadership with men supporting us is the most important teaching of our lifetime. Figuring out how do we come back into balance with women stepping into those roles, and not in the way that men have led, which is very competitive and sometimes has caused great harm to others. But using a grandmother heart, that kind of leadership that looks around at every single person and thinks about, what do each of these people need? What do the vulnerable ones need? What do the ones without a voice, what do they need? And then making decisions based on how it can benefit everyone. That is the teaching that I'm wanting to live and that I want to support in other women all over Mother Earth. Thank you. Piramaya pie wo piratanka metakiwas. Kashira tewa kataka piramaya pie. Ikana pa suyan. Ikana wa suyan. No susim. Pirama pie o pirata.